Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today I want to talk about Ripper vampires and how they differ from basically generic vampires. It's something I've wanted to talk about for a while now because the whole subject is really interesting. Ripper vampires are both natural and can also be created. They are extremely aggressive, predatory vampires who channel the overwhelming euphoric sensation of drinking blood into the actual attack on their victims. The surprise with the Rippers is that they are far more savage and beast-like than their human appearance suggests. They growl, hiss, snarl and curl their lips back, baring their fangs as signs of aggression when provoked. Unlike the average vampire, the enjoyment of hunting and terrorizing humans are far more entertaining to Rippers, as they destroy the lives and sever the limbs of humans without a moment's hesitation or remorse. Despite their nature and reputation, some Rippers are also capable of human emotions such as compassion, love, protection, respect and even self-control, although not without consequence. Not all Rippers are evil killers with no conscience. There are some who are just tragically consumed by their bloodlust to the point that their morality is irrelevant, such as the case with Stefan Salvatore, who, when in his true state of mind, is a very heroic and moral person. Stefan's mother Lily is also another known Ripper and is also quite compassionate like her son, although when consumed with bloodlust, she will leave a trail of devastation behind her. I've mentioned bloodlust twice with both vampires, and that's because it plays a crucial role in contributing towards the unhinged mental state that they appear to be in. Rippers are the type of vampire that is so consumed by their bloodlust that they are totally unaware of what they're actually doing and often black out after consuming their victim, such as their exhausting experience. Stefan and those who know him often refer to his bloodlust as a kind of addiction, such as alcoholism. When he drinks human blood in large amounts, he has a difficult time feeding in moderation afterward and deals with this much of the time by abstaining from human blood completely and drinking animal blood only. We see what happens to Stefan when he relapses on human blood. It takes everything within him to fight it, but it still gets out and phases, and he ends up causing serious devastation. So let's just talk a little more about how badly being a Ripper affected Stefan and the long-term damage to himself. He has been said to be one of the worst Rippers in vampire history, even impressing original vampire Klaus Michelson, who actually befriended him. On the contrary, Stefan is a highly moral person with a strong conscience, yet due to his severe blood addiction, he developed a notorious reputation and was infamously called the Ripper of Monterey. To sum that up, a lot of people in Monterey were not only fed on and killed by Stefan, but many were decapitated as the vampire lost all control. This shows how strong a Ripper's bloodlust truly is, to be able to overtake their morality, like momentarily switching off their humanity. Stefan did not stop there. His reputation was worldwide. He is also known to vampires all over for slaughtering an entire village of innocent immigrants. His savagery was so bad that Stefan would then attempt to put the heads and limbs of his victims back together again out of sheer guilt. To remind himself, and more so punish himself for his actions, he keeps a list of every single person he's ever killed, with the hope that as the list grows, it will finally make him see sense to stop feeding on humans, as the result is always the same. He does begin an animal diet, and although it weakens him, it is a price to pay in order to discontinue his tradition of adding victims to his wall of death. Of course, Stefan isn't the only known Ripper within the Vampire Diaries. There is another, and this Ripper is very close to home in his very own mother, Lily Salvatore. Lily was turned by an unknown vampire and abandoned her family, including her husband and her sons, which devastated Stefan and left Damon extremely bitter. She then spent so long away from them both that her emotional attachment to them completely diminishes. Lily then fled to Europe, where she ended up being responsible for the killing and slaughtering of over 3,000 people. This was according to Kai Parker, who additionally went on to say that Lily was a vicious Ripper who had a relentless blood addiction that became so extreme she would lose herself of switching mindset, which then left her unable to control her insatiable instincts as a vampire. Lily had left a trail of dead bodies all across Europe for decades. It got to the point that people would flee towns when hearing even but the slightest rumour of her presence in the area. Her killing sprees became so infamous that the powerful Gemini Coven decided to intervene. She was eventually caught by the Coven and, as a punishment for her crimes, trapped in a prison world in the year 1903. Before Lily was turned, it seemed that she had a similar personality and temperament to that of her youngest son, Stefan. Both were genuinely kind, gentle humans, which was displayed in flashbacks for Lily and obviously throughout the whole show for Stefan. Although an immortal life sentence for Lily, she did learn to control her lust in the prison world, consuming only 2 drops of blood a week, enough to avoid desiccation. So, that was natural born Rippers. The behavioural traits were within Stefan and Lily, but there is another form of Ripper, a manufactured Ripper in the form of an engineered virus. Dr. Wes Maxfield of the Augustine Society, a secret organisation who experimented on vampires and intended to use what they learned in their research to benefit humanity, such as using vampire blood to cure fatal illnesses. However, in order to accomplish this goal, the doctors captured and tortured vampires by doing experiments on them to test their theories. Enzo St. John being the most notable candidate, as he was incarcerated for well over half a decade. Dr. Maxfield had developed a compound that would turn vampires into Rippers. The compound would then make the vampires salivate at the smell of vampire blood. Once they started feeding, they would not stop and became uncontrollable. Damon Salvatore became an engineered Ripper after being injected with the compound, which in turn led him to begin feeding on other vampires. Dr. Wes Maxfield had originally intended to do this to Elena. Pretty far away from experimenting for the benefits of humankind, if you ask me. Maxfield then created an even more toxic compound infused with werewolf venom in order to make the vampires toxic to other vampires. An enhanced Ripper, if you will. Elena joined the Ripper Club when she was injected with it by Catherine as a last act of revenge against her doppelganger before her death. Then we have the Rippers who were magically created by the cursed stake that was created by the Strix. After Rebecca Michelson was pierced by the stake, it turned her into an uncontrollable Ripper, which, given Rebecca's status as an original, made her a very dangerous threat. She was willingly then staked by the white oak ash dagger in order to protect herself, her loved ones and innocent victims. I think the Ripper persona or trait or virus, whatever you want to call it, really helps diversify the vampires and shows that even our own fan favourites like Stefan or Rebecca were susceptible to surrendering their own human morals that made them so likeable in the first place. So everyone, with that being said, that is my explanation of the Ripper vampires. I hope you enjoyed it, but what I want to know is, what do you want to see next? Do you want to see more of these explanation videos, or do you want lore videos like the life of characters, or maybe you want some theories? If you do, comment the title of the vid you want to see down below. Make sure to hit that like button on this video, as it shows YouTube I'm doing a good job. And if you want to join the Vampire Folklore family, then feel free to do so. Hit that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all in the very next video.